Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everybody. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is 10 o'clock here in the morning, Saturday morning, October 23rd. I'm happy to be here. This is Worldwide Epidemic of Child Abuse and Human Rights Abuses, and it's just a half an hour program this morning talking about what I see sort of going on out there, and regarding the whole issue of this worldwide mess, really, that we have going on here that's always been going on. And I study human rights, really, child rights, human rights, and that's my main focus. And mainly lately, it's been more about the national issues of North American issues of child abuse mainly. And but I'm still keeping the tabs and keeping an eye on what's going on around the world. And so I'm glad to be able to do these shows. And I found a couple of things that popped into my inbox this morning that I kind of wanted to look at. Excuse me. And so, I'm just having some coffee, waking up, and happy to be here. This is a real awesome opportunity. Really, I love all the different shows, really, that are addressing this kind of stuff here on Blog Talk Radio. It's just awesome. I try to tune into other people's shows as well when I have time. And just to hear people talking about this stuff, it's so important that we do talk about it. If we don't talk about it, nothing changes. It's just like it's just like anything else. There's for the last I don't know how many years there's been a big push on finding cures for all the different types of cancer out there, and finding the cure. It's like, well, it's what people care about. That's where the funding goes. That's where the attention goes. And so of course people care about finding a cure for cancer. I do too, because my sister died of cancer, and I have known so many people in my lifetime who have had cancer and died, and I also know survivors of cancer who are 2-3 times survivors who survived cancer. So I mean, it's awesome. But it's whatever society is paying attention to. That's where the funding will go. That's where the attention will go. And there's a whole lot of people out there, working on a lot of great things. And we have to do that. We have to work on it all. So we can't just focus on one thing and then just leave everything else off to the side. It's all very important. And so everybody who's standing up for human rights, is doing the same exact thing that people are doing who are trying to fight and stop cancer. It's just, it depends on how people feel about things. And a lot of people just really don't care that people are suffering around the world, not with only cancer, but with domestic violence, child abuse situations, human rights abuses against men and women in every aspect of their lives. This is absolutely ridiculous. And the problem being is that it's not brought on by some disease. It's brought on by control and power and issues, people wanting to, usurp their authority over people and hurt people in the meantime. And it's, unless we can change the hearts and the minds of these people, including parents who abuse their children, whether it's in the United States, Canada, or, some other country around the world, we have to really, as a society and as a world population, get people to change their minds about the way they feel about this whole situation, if we're ever going to make any real change. And the only way to do it is to start talking about it and start thinking about it. It's the same thing with those people that first started, the doctors and scientists who first started out saying, hey, maybe we can cure cancer. How are we going to do it? Well, what they did? They started talking about it. And so, it's the same issue with child abuse and human rights abuses. It's like, how are we going to fix this? How are we going to cure this? And we have to do this. And everybody who's speaking out and standing up for child rights, standing up to say, hey, abuse is wrong in every case, to me, in my books, you guys are heroes, because so many people don't want to hear about it, don't want to know about it. They just want to pretend that everything's great all the way around the world. But if you've ever been in somebody's shoes who life wasn't so good for them, if you could put yourself in their place, you'd be feeling pretty bad right now. People being raped and killed and maimed, and children, being raped and killed and maimed, and all at the hands of somebody who thinks that they have the right to do that to them. It's pathetic. It's extremely wrong. I don't mind standing up and saying it, and I'm glad to be one more voice, and I will continue to do this for the rest of my life. However many days I have, I'll continue to make as much noise as I possibly can, and do as much as I can to get positive change, in this, along with everybody else who's doing this right now, to make some real changes in this, because this is absolutely ridiculous what's going on around the world. It just shows you how barbaric we really still are. You know how backward and how ignorant and how completely messed up psychologically we all still really are, when we can hurt people like that and feel like justified. Oh, it's okay. There's no problem with raping people. No, there is a problem, and it makes me mad that people don't feel that it's an issue. It's like, oh well, who cares, right? Well, I care about these people, and I pay sort of a little bit more attention than most people might because I care. And I tend to sort of watch the stuff that's on TV that comes across that most people turn the channel. Stories from World Vision coming out, about women and children and even men, being raped and killed, and most people turn the channel. They want to watch something else that's funny or takes their mind off of this stuff. But you know what? I don't want to take my mind off this stuff. Because if I take my mind off this stuff, then nothing changes, right? If we all take our mind off of the fact that children are dying at the hands of their parents and caregivers from these horrific torturers, they're being tortured, they're being killed and maimed. If they're not killed, they just have to live the rest of their lives with the damage done psychologically and physically, emotionally, in every other way. To me, it's death, right? And so, I don't want to turn my eyes away from that. I don't want to stop talking about it, and this is the whole issue. People have lost their lives for so many years over this, the whole issue of human rights. People have been dying for the cause for years, and I'm so thankful for those people, and I just, stand up right behind them and say, you know what, so be it. I'm going to keep on talking, and I don't care, if it offends people or if it because you know what, abuse offends me. That's what offends me, and nobody seems to care about that. I have talked about this, not too long ago on my shows. It's the whole idea that people are offended because people are standing up to fight against abuse. I don't care. That's just too bad, because I'm going to keep doing it, and along with everybody else out here who's doing something positive and proactive to make the changes that we need to in this world, because this is absolutely ridiculous what's going on. And all you have to do is just open up your newspaper, get online, turn on your TV. It's there. And not only in North America, but around the world. And, I think we can't ignore the world situation, the world problems, because they are our own. We are all connected in some way, and so many people think that that's not true, and that's not the case, but that is the case, and that is the truth. And so I found a couple of articles this morning that I wanted to look at, and this one is from IRIN, I-R-I-N, the Humanitarian News and Analysis, the project of the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. And I have all these little things that sort of pop into my inbox all the time because I set it up that way, and this way I don't have to go searching for information. It just pops into my inbox, right? So I can go and check it out. It sort of helps me, save me some time. And this morning, actually this is from Friday. This is from yesterday, October 22nd. They posted this called "Gender Sexual Violence Used to Break the Will of Civilians." I wanted to talk about this. There's a lot of articles. There's a lot of attention on this right now from the UN and from other, NPOs, not-for-profit organizations, who are doing a lot of studies and talking to a lot of the victims and survivors. I really want to call them survivors, really, because they survived the whole incident. But the thing is they are victims of, rape and these horrible, child soldiers being sent off to kill. And this is really bad. It's like if we don't address this stuff, it'll just continue, right? And so we see there's a big mass movement to address this stuff, and that's why I'm so glad to be a part of it, because we all need to be aware of what's going on around the world, because it does directly affect us at some point, right? It says, Johannesburg, 22nd of October 2010, modern war is often not about soldier against soldier, but a struggle to break the will of civilians, women, girls, men, and boys, by whatever means possible, including rape. The UN Population Fund State of the World Population 2010 report published on October 20th states. It says the term gender-based violence is often used to refer to violence against women, but as the UN guidelines for gender-based violence interventions in humanitarian settings state, it is important to note men and boys may also be victims of gender-based violence, especially sexual violence. And this is a fact, and this has been going on since Roman times. I mean, all you have to do is, study some history. I know most people just don't like history, and they don't like to study history, except for the people who are, I guess, what most people would say are historian buffs, people that are right into history, right? The rest of the world just doesn't want to know. But you know what? We will never change a thing if we don't go back and look at the mistakes that were made throughout history, and that is a fact. Most people want to ignore it and pretend that it's not important, but you know what? It is very important for our survival and for the means to move this world in a better, more positive direction. We do have to go back and look historically at what's going on, and people have been raping and using men and boys sexually throughout history, all the way back to when time began. You know what I mean? People are sick, and people are disgusting to think that they can use somebody sexually, period, in any situation or any relationship, whether it's same sex, whether it's it's like, if you're hurting somebody because you want to sexually abuse them, you are an abuser, and you are really should be locked up. It's against the law. So sad enough, so many children are involved in this stuff. People, obviously, so the whole issue of child exploitation and child sex trafficking is such a huge issue. And I have another article here about that today from World Vision. But this kind of all ties in, this whole use of people for the, to intimidate, to break their will, to really get control of them in every way that will, whoever these abusers are, will sexually abuse them, rape them, and assault them to get what they want, right? And this is horrible because it's absolutely pathetic that in the year 2010 we haven't made any progress in this at all. We haven't been able to stop people from raping people, anywhere in the world, right? And it's because individuals who are abusers, these people who are, whether they're in the military or it doesn't matter, whether they're somebody in someone's home, think that they have the right to do this. How can people even think that they have the right to do this? I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand the mind of the abuser, right? I can't see why anybody would want to hurt somebody like that. And so, for me, it's really hard to kind of see, why are these people doing this? I can't imagine doing that to somebody, and I can't imagine, being able to justify it and think that it's okay, because it's absolutely not. And it says more than a third of Liberian men were thought to have been abused during the civil war between 1999 and 2003. And the report cites an interaction between a Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, refugee, and a Uganda-based aid worker as an illustration of how gender-based violence manifested itself among men. And so they go on to talk about this from this report, that this refugee had said what had happened to him. And the refugee, could no longer bear to watch helplessly as others around him were brutally abused. He had learned how powerless men could be in the face of utter lawlessness and unchecked violence. The refugee, had also suffered sexual abuse, unable to save even himself from gender-based violence. Quote unquote, "We are cowards. We feel bad," the refugee said. "That's why we all left." In another example, the report quoted research by Uganda's Makerere University Refugee Law Project, which documented abuse suffered by people from the Great Lakes region, particularly the DRC, and recounted an ordeal by a male refugee being sexually abused by numerous soldiers. It says, "We were worth nothing," quote unquote. "They were putting us in the place of women." They said, we are going to show you that you are all women. You are not men like us," the refugee said. Apart from sexual abuse, the report said men were often forced to witness or participate in violence against women, such as a wife, quote unquote, a wife and mother being raped by armed assailants, or, as one woman quoted in the report said, how her brother was killed because he refused at gunpoint to rape her. This is absolutely sickening and disgusting, and, I don't know how people can, it's not like I'm saying everybody should just give up everything they're doing and, because that's not obviously what's got to happen here. It's like, okay, let's stop life and fix this situation. Obviously, that is not doable. That's not even thinkable. Excuse me. The whole issue is, I think what we have to do is really become consciously aware that this stuff is going on at any point around around the clock, around the globe, and be very, concerned, and try to look for the organizations who are really making a difference. A lot of the small grassroots organizations are doing a lot of good work. If you do the studies and you can find out that there's many, many grassroots, really, privately funded and some government funded grassroots organizations who are making a huge difference in this world. And it's got to happen little piece by little piece by little piece. It's something that, if this is a worldwide plague, really, that's going to take a long, long time to fix. But the whole issue is, the more that we stand up and get involved, whether it's just getting the information, knowing what's happening out there, promoting this type of information to age appropriately be promoted in schools. We're not talking like kindergartens. We're talking high schools. Get the young kids and universities and whatnot. Get the young people really to start thinking about this, so that they can kind of become these really powerful think tanks. Because the next generations are where it's really all going to count. Obviously, in this generation, there's only so much we can do. But if we can get the next generations, the next however many generations to get to really start thinking about this stuff, then hopefully, they'll be able to fix a lot of their world's problems right after we're long gone. I would like to see that, the next few generations pick up the slack and unfortunately pick up the mess from which wasn't even our fault. This has been going back since time began. But really, if everybody gets involved and does something, I think that's what counts. And we all, not everybody has a lot of money to give and stuff like that. But there's lots of grassroots organizations, small, organizations that, not-for-profits that work to promote education in a lot of countries, like Africa, all the different countries in Africa, Uganda especially. Uganda right now, Uganda is fighting for education. They are the citizens, the normal citizens like you and me who live in these little towns and these little, these tiny little rural villages. They want education. Now, some of them really don't care, too much about education because they're mainly into, farming or agriculture or whatever. But there's a few who have, already kind of been teaching in the schools who would like more education because they want to pass it on to as many students as they can, and they want to get education for their students, and they want to help build their country, back up. They want to take over and take control of their country and have it to be a decent place to live. And so it's these little tiny groups out here who are pumping out these, getting funding for just anything that they can help these people with, you know what I mean? Because some of these places don't even have electricity, and some of these places, there's just, they'd have to work off of blackberries or something, because they do have, in some of these places now, telecommunications where they can get telephone lines in there and stuff like that. But, they're pretty rural, a lot of those places. But still, it's just whatever we can do, to try to help people out, because these people want to change their country and they do want help. And it's the same with Afghanistan. I'm a big proponent for the education, getting the education to the women and girls in Afghanistan, because they used to be able to go to school. They used to be able to study until the Russia pulled out. Russia got beat because the states helped the Afghan, militia beat Russia, and Russia went home, and then the states went home, and what they were left with was this mess, and these people actually know absolutely nothing but war, but they want education too. And those women used to sit in the government seats. Those women used to be able to hold. They still do in some respects hold a few seats, but they're not allowed to say anything. But because they do say things and then they get shot on the way home. I mean, that's a fact, right? All you have to do is start looking around and getting the information, right? That's what I do. There's some powerful women over there who are willing to stand up at gunpoint and say, I don't care. I want freedom for Afghan women and children to be able to, the girls, to be able to study, to be able to live a normal life. This is ridiculous. They've been under the thumb of the Taliban for a long, long time, and they're tired of it. They used to be able to walk down the street with no covering on. They used to be able to, do whatever they wanted. They were highly recognized individuals in Afghanistan before this whole mess, and so now they're just they have no rights at all, not even the right to life. So it's pretty sad. And they're finding out their history, and they're finding out that, hey, we used to have rights. We used to be able to sit in the government and be part of the whole thing. We used to be able to make decisions along with the men, and women and girls were allowed to go to school. And what's going on? Women and girls were allowed to work if they wanted to, and now, they can't even walk down the street with unescorted, or they could be killed, right? It's a real shame, what happened there. And most people think that that's the way it always was, because people, if they don't know the history of a country, then the people like a little bit younger than myself, or maybe even my age, would think that that's the way it always was. They would think, oh, that's just always the way it was in Afghanistan. But if you don't know the history of that country, then how would you even know that? You have to go back and do some study. That's why history is very important, because if you can destroy a country's history, then you can have control of that country, and that's a fact. That is a fact, boy, let me tell you. If you destroy the history of a country, then you can take it over. because nobody will know that they ever had any freedoms. Nobody will know that they ever had any rights, and you can totally manipulate the population. It's very important to study history. It's very important to learn from it, right? But anyway, this is absolutely ridiculous what's going on in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and I tell you, almost every article that comes out of there is bad news. It almost all has to do with rape, because the people in the Congo are raping everybody. You know, it's almost like it's some sort of, I don't know what's gone wrong with their brains. I don't know if something happened that they all got brain damage or something, but all of them are raping everybody, right? The Congo is notoriously bad right now. All you have to do is pull up some articles on the Congo, and you'll see there's mass rape going on, mass terrorizing of women, men, and children. It's not just women. And they are using them sexually and abusing them, killing them, cutting off body parts, doing all these sick and twisted things. They're very sick, very, very sick people. And so what it's going to take to fix that situation is all those people are going to have to die eventually, which is going to be great. You know, I'm sorry, you know, I can't help but say that, because those people are very sick and they do deserve to not be here, but I'm not God. So the thing is that they are all going to have to die off, all those really sick people, and then the next generations that come up are going to have to care. They're going to have to really care and not do the same thing to their own people. And these young kids, really, if enough people can reach them to show them, hey, that is not the way to live, that is not the right thing to do, to go around raping people, hurting people, abusing people, to get your way and to get some power, that is not the way to do it. You know what I mean? If you want to have a good country and a good life, then you need to get your country back, and you need to get it back on the right track, right? So, I mean, we all just have to wait really for a while. It's unfortunate, but that's about the only answer that there is, without going in there and just, ending up in a big mess with a military operation, which wouldn't work. You know what I mean? It's the same whole issue with Afghanistan. We're going to have to wait till a lot of those old-timer sick people with these psychological problems die off, because there's no help for those people, honestly. How can you round up all the militia in the Congo who are raping people and killing people, men, women, and children, raping them and torturing them and cutting off their body parts and really just disgusting. I mean, they're very sick. How can you really get those people some help? I mean, if you could round them all up and find them, round them all up, I'm pretty sure they would number in the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. And put them someplace behind, wires and, complete security. What kind of help would there be for them? Could they ever be, fixed? What kind of hope would they have that they could be cured from their sickness? It's the same issue that we have going on over here today with the child sexual predators in North America. They, however, just don't run around in mass groups doing this. They're all out for their own type of thing, right? Except for these groups that are online, sharing child pornography and whatnot. These really sick individuals who do this, they're kind of like that. But, in North America, tens of thousands of people can't run around in these militia groups and mass rape citizens, thank God. And that's because we have rights, and we better stand up for those rights, because otherwise we'll end up like the DRC. That's the whole issue with human rights. It's like people just want to go have coffee and they just want to go sit around and have fun. Well, I don't blame you. But, in the meantime, start thinking about rights and start standing up for them and start protecting the rights that we do have and making some noise when you start to see some rights being crossed. The lines are being crossed. It's very, very important that we do stand up for all human rights, especially in North America, because the amount of people that died for these human rights is actually it's a ridiculous amount of people have died for this, for us to be able to walk freely on these streets here and drive our cars down these streets and do our thing, have a good life, right? The reason we have a good life is because people died. They laid down their lives. They literally walked in front of machine guns and walked in front of grenades so that we could have what we have today here in the United States and Canada. So I hope everybody will not forget that. Right, otherwise we would be just exactly the same as any of these other countries out here. So let's not forget that. Let's not forget people that have died and given their lives for this. And people are still dying and giving their lives for this every day. The police officers on the street who really do care and are actually upholding the law. Quite often, so many of them get killed on our streets, trying to make this place a safe place for people, and they really care. Lots of people lose their lives, firefighters, anybody who's out there doing a public service to try to protect people and Lots of people are still dying. So let's not forget them, right? Because that's why we can do what we do. That's why women can go to school. That's why women can pretty much get some help if they are suffering in a domestic violence situation. It's still behind the times. I mean, I really think that we could be doing a lot more, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I think that we could do a lot better as a society as a whole. We really need more programs. We need more funding. We need, sadly enough, we need more domestic violence shelters, and we need more programs for children who have been abused. We need more help for them. We need better foster care systems. This is absolutely ridiculous. A child going from an abusive home right into another abusive foster home. That makes me sick to my stomach. And, it's absolutely ridiculous. This is going on even over here. With all of the money being pumped out into these programs, where's the help? What are people doing? I know there's some good people out there, so I'm not running anybody down who's actually really cares and is doing their job. I'm talking about people who are not doing their job. And they're saying they're doing their job, but they're not, and they don't care. And they're just letting this stuff slide through, letting kids slip through the cracks. They know about the abuse, they do nothing about it. So many times, they know they have reports on the abusers and stuff like that, but the children are still staying in the homes. It's a really sad and pathetic situation, and I don't mind saying it. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I don't mind saying that this is absolutely ridiculous, and a lot of people don't want, it's a very unpopular thing to do, to put yourself out there and state your opinions, because most people don't want to do that because they want to, they want people to like them. So they say, well, if I say that, many people might be upset and not like me. I don't care who likes me. It doesn't matter to me, because I'm not doing this for me. It's not a popularity contest. This is, hey, let's get something done. All of us have a responsibility here to change this world. It's our responsibility, believe it or not. People don't want to agree with that, and they don't want to see it. They don't want to accept it. Well, you know what? Too bad. By being a citizen on the planet, that is your responsibility. It is our responsibility, and we cannot let it slide and just leave it up to a certain group of people, which is what I was doing. I mean, for years and years, I loved what other people were doing. I thought it was so great that all these groups of people were out here helping the world. I was like, thank God for those people, because it's always been on my heart, right? Because I grew up abused, and I grew up in a domestic violence, secondhand victim of domestic violence, and watching my family be ripped apart by two people who would not get help. And sadly enough, it happens. And the thing is that all my life I've been very thankful for people who have done anything to make this world a better place. And I was sitting on the couch thinking, that I didn't have to get involved because, it just didn't occur to me to get involved, because I was thinking, look at what all these great people are doing. And then I thought about it one day when I saw this thing on TV about this woman who had her face bashed in by a rifle butt from her husband. And, I mean, her face was caved in. She had, her teeth were missing, and her whole side of her face was smashed. And she was probably, I don't know if she survived. She might not have. But all I know is there was going to be no help for her. There was going to be no pain medication, no nothing. And she was on the ground pleading for mercy as this camera was, this hidden camera was getting this footage, right? They actually got it out of Afghanistan and played it over here. And this is so sad. I mean, my God, no help for that woman. And she was probably pleading for mercy, probably pleading for somebody to kill her. She was probably in so much pain. I don't know, have you ever had your face smashed, by a rifle butt? Lost all your teeth, your jaw broken, so with no pain medication? Can you imagine? I mean, one little toothache is enough to kill a person, let alone having your face smashed in, and no help, right? So I think that's where we have to really stand in their shoes, do the right thing and stand up and say, you know what, I'm putting myself in these people's shoes. I can't imagine what it's like to be in that situation, but it doesn't matter, because I'm going to speak out against abuse of all kinds, and I'm going to stand up for the rights of every single person on this planet, because they are people like you and me, and if you were in that situation, you would certainly want somebody to help you. So this is my, little, sort of like, soapbox here for this morning, right? Let's all get involved and do what we can, right? Because, hey, I'm just as guilty. I was just as guilty, and until about 3.5 years ago, when I thought, man, I can no longer sit on the couch, no longer. It was a huge decision to make, because it will affect the rest of my life. But, I don't care, because I care about these people, And that's who I care about. And I care about these children out here worldwide, not just North America. But hey, I'm concentrating on North America because that's where I chose to start, which was nationally. Thing is we got to work to protect our children, and we got to work to protect human rights. Do whatever you can, to make a difference and stand up for people's rights, right? Because you could have been one of those people. You could have been one of those men, women, and children in the Congo being raped and tortured and killed and maimed. Be so thankful that you're not. And, stand up. Make some noise, whatever way you can. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll talk to you later. You can check out my Blog Talk show page there, and I will be back on Monday morning, one child abuse survivor to another. Take good care. Keep reaching out. I love you all so much. Thanks for tuning into my show, and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.